finance
everyone.
professional and entrepreneur with many years of finance and banking experience in the United Kingdom. She has a passion for empowering individuals through teaching and increasing awareness of the principles for managing personal finances and growing wealth. After it became apparent to her that this is not taught in schools or in our communities, yet they have profound impact on our lives. Arde teaches a class online, the Finance Masterclass, and runs a real estate company, Vistara Properties. Dreams Foster 2025. Make welcome our second speaker, Arde Bamiro.
Welcome, Ma. You're very, very welcome, Ms. Adebamiro. Thank you for joining us today. And over to you, Ma.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I will just share my screen now.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Ma, I can see your screen.
Wonderful. Thank you. So this afternoon, for the second session, we will be looking at frame shifting, financial planning and management. And the focus really will be much more on the frame shifting because it underpins whatever management or whatever planning we may want to do from a financial perspective. And before I dive into the details, I want to thank the organizers of this meeting this afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I also want to thank everybody who's taken the time to log on, to expand your knowledge, to learn and to grow, and hopefully to share at some point in time in the future. So what would we be looking at? We'll be looking at our mindsets. Then we will look at financial myths. And then we will go on to financial truths. As I said earlier, the theme of today is frame shifting. And this means to shift the frame through which we view things. It's to shift how we look, to shift our perspectives. Two people can have the very same experience or very, very similar experiences, but come to vastly different conclusions because of their outlooks. As such, a lot of what we will talk about, like I said, will focus on the mind. To shift perception means to change our minds. And I have to admit, changing our minds is one of the hardest things to do. Christ came to earth 2,000 years ago asking us to do precisely that, to repent. Until this day, the Holy Spirit is still at work at it. So let's look at our mindsets. And you may ask, why am I going into the mind as opposed to into the analytics of finances or the details of budgeting or planning, you may ask. But management is a tool. It's a tool of many in our toolkits. But how we think, how we see is fundamental. We cannot be who we believe we are not. We cannot become who we do not see ourselves becoming. Now, there might be an element of cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is where you believe one thing, but you act in another way. There might be an element of cognitive dissonance for a short while, but it doesn't live long because we will eventually live out our true beliefs. We cannot rise above the level of our thinking. As such, one of the wisest men, one of the richest men in history said, "The man thinks in his heart, so is he." Heart in this instance is our minds. As we think, as we believe, so is our lives. It was the writer James Allen who said, "Man imagines thought can be kept secret. It cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit and habit solidifies into circumstance. And there it is for all to see. There is our thoughts for everybody to peruse. So it's our mind that we need to work on. It's our mindset that we need to focus on. So what is our mindset? Our mindset consists of deeply held beliefs and assumptions that shape the way we view ourselves and the world around us. The previous speaker gave an example of someone who was very keen on being an academic. He could have applied a number of times and then concluded, you know what, this system is not going to work for me. I have applied so many times, I haven't got a job, so therefore my belief is it is not possible for people like me or people who look like me. But he chose to continue. It was Henry Ford who said, the industrialist, if you believe you can, you are right. If you believe you cannot, you are also right. The etymology of the word mindset means those things are set in our mind, almost like strongholds. But please understand that beliefs and assumptions may be right or they may be wrong. They may be rooted in the truth or they may be rooted in fallacy. And experience is not always right. In fact, there's a common saying that experience is the best teacher. It's not so. Because experience, first of all, gives you the test before you learn the lesson. The normal way to learn is you learn the lesson, then you have a test. Experience does it the other way around. And that's why we've been admonished that do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Human nature is such that we latch onto beliefs and assumptions. It's a way of giving meaning to, and also as a way of navigating life. So if I've tried this 3-4 times and it hasn't worked, then it means it's wrong. I remember someone once saying they never give mortgages to students. And I'm saying, no, that's not true. And there was nothing I could say that could change that person's mind. I said, I work in the industry, and there's nothing in the lending guidelines that says don't lend to students. But it was already a mindset that had trouble shifting. In some instances, we have to let go of mindsets we have. I was discussing with someone not too long ago that anything you hear, anything you read, anything you see, online or otherwise, anything that's discussed with you, that's not rooted in true principles, that's not rooted in principles that endure over time, is merely an opinion, not necessarily the truth. And it's important we understand that dichotomy and that difference. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The mindset we have will dictate the choices we make. And the mindset our mindset is even more key now, is more delicate now in the information age, where we're bombarded with so much information on a non-stop basis. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to recognize there's an ongoing battle. The battle is currently waging for our minds, for your mind, my mind. Now let's throw in AI. I would like to make the assumption, and I'm willing to accept that I might be wrong, that most of us on this call are old enough to know about life before AI. Or a generation is currently being raised that will believe everything AI spews out. That will take it as the truth without question. It's already happening. In fact, studies have shown that AI and the information age we live in is already affecting the creative side of our brains. And it's affecting us in a negative way. That part is dying out fast, especially in children. I'm not saying we shouldn't use AI, I'm not saying we shouldn't use technology, but we need to guide our minds. Having talked about mindsets, having talked about our thinking, having talked about our perspectives, let's now have a look at myths and truths from a financial perspective. Like I said, there's some assumptions we have are simply not true. But let's look at some of these from a financial standpoint. Wealth comes to the favor. There seems to be a belief that if you become wealthy, especially amongst us those of African origin, you're either favored, lucky, corrupt, or you run into something that just changed your life overnight. Should I even go a bit further and shake that belief system a little bit more? We sometimes believe it comes to the prayerful or the spiritual. But if that be the case, thinking of us of African origin, we're very spiritual, we're very prayerful. How come Africa is one of the poorest parts of the world? Wealth does not happen by accident. There are defined principles for creating wealth. And we could touch on one or two of these. And I'm going to refer to the Bible because I consider this the book of principles by which we navigate life. On savings, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but the fool gulps them down. It doesn't say the rich store up for save. It means from every income, no matter how big, no matter how small, we must save. Not we should, not we could, not we try, we must. This verse in front of us is basically telling us, if you spend everything you earn, you are foolish. Not my words. On investments, ship your grain across the seas. After many days, you may receive a return. Emphasis here on may. Emphasis here on me. However, it means there's no guarantee that there will be a profit. But one thing that will guarantee a zero profit is not to invest. And please note, a salary is not an investment. The salary reality is a series of one-off incomes. It's not even what we can call a dependable cash flow. Because if you choose not to turn up and work for another 2 or 3 months, we will see what would happen to that cash flow. It will stop flowing for sure. On the hustle, that we all need to hustle. Sow your seed in the morning, and in the evening, let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which would succeed. I remember speaking to some people recently about property. I viewed a number of properties. Some I was not willing, well, I didn't have the funds to buy all of them, so I offered them. And some people were asking, can you guarantee this is going to be profitable? I can't guarantee anything. We have to walk in faith. We have to have courage. We have to step out. Sowing your seed in the morning and in the evening, not letting your hands be idle, means you walk your 9 to 5. And when that is done, you start on your 5 to 9. You must always have a goal in front of you that you're walking towards. Life should always find you climbing another mountain, surmounting another challenge, seeking to move the needle yet a little bit further. Life is not about coming here and having fantastic leisurely time. And I think that on one level is another myth we've been sold, but we'll get to that next. On management. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough? It tells us faith is not a license to be reckless. It tells us management and planning is fundamental. That whatever we have to do, we have to manage and deploy wisely. Another principle of management is whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. That basically implies that our growth is rooted in what we manage well now. If we manage the little now well, we would manage greater things in future. Sometimes we wonder why we don't grow. It's probably because we're wasting at the level we're at. Another myth is that financial abundance happens on a big bang basis. And when I mean big bang, I mean it just happens overnight. I have hammered that there's this one deal, this one contract, this one linking up with someone, this one conversation that would change my life completely. And that's why some people get into dubious things, because they think they'll get rich from it. Very often, very much like the last speaker said, very often when we see what we call quote unquote breakthrough, things have been happening behind the scenes for a while. There has been consistency, there has been resilience, there has even been setbacks, there has been growth, there has been understanding, there has been faith, there has been patience. Someone once mentioned to me a few years ago that after all, the children of Israel became rich overnight when they left Egypt. it was one night and everything shifted. He said, no, it's not true. It was on paid wages for over 200 years. It didn't just happen in one big bang moment. It was King Solomon who said, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little, consistency, will increase it. It's this very principle that plays out where 70% of lottery winners become bankrupt within 5 years because they haven't gathered little by little. And I'm not saying if you could gather more, you make sure it's little. No. They haven't gone through the process. They haven't learned the kinks of the system. They haven't understood about putting a system in place that consistently works. They haven't tried things and failed and adjusted those things to make sure they work. So there's no process to build on, but to go back to what they understood. Another myth is that financial abundance happens within sacrifice or discipline. That's not true at all. To move from any level to the next level, you have to let go of some things at that level, at the level you're currently at. It may be leisure, it may be sleep, it may be convenience, but you're going to let go of some things. Christ has said, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. To be meek does not mean to be weak or to be subdued. It means strength under control. The self-discipline to consistently make choices that are right. It's the self-discipline not to buy things we can't afford. It's the self-discipline not to rack up credit card bills. It's the self-discipline not to get into debts you don't need to get into. It's the self-discipline to have a monthly plan and to stick by it. It's the discipline to invest consistently. You feel like you don't feel like. You have pressing bills, you don't have pressing bills. You know it. Too often we want results, but not too keen to pay the price. Every good thing has its price. That was what Christ asked the Zebedee brothers when they wanted rulership. Are we willing to drink of this cup? The question we need to ask ourselves now, are you willing to pay the price? Because there is a price to pay. Another financial myth is that the systems are against you. I would want to caveat this one and say it's not entirely false. Because I believe that in a lot of instances, we have been miseducated. Now, I can't say hand on heart intentionally so or not, but we have been miseducated. Hence why we have these myths and wrong assumptions. However, it does not mean we cast ourselves in the role of victims and become helpless in the face of challenges. Adversity stretches us. It grows us. It was William Shakespeare who said, sweet are the uses of adversity because it develops us. It refines us in so many ways. Could it be patience? Is it perseverance we need to understand? Is it resilience? Is it faith? Is it understanding? Is it the application of wisdom? Adversity draws all of this out of us if we're willing to still keep going ahead. It was James Allen, the author, who said, circumstances do not make a man. It simply reveals him to himself. And this could be positive and for negative. Good circumstances could show us ourselves that we never knew. It could breed arrogance. And hard circumstances could show us ourselves that we never knew, as in giving up too soon. But more importantly, it's important that we understand that we're not meant to be kept down by the systems of man. Christ has already declared, in this world you will have trouble, but take care, take heart. I have overcome the world. The world in this instance means the systems man have put in place. Well, sometimes what happens, and what I've seen in a number of instances, is that we give up on ourselves. I understand there are times we get weary. I understand there are times we get tired. But we need to understand that the true definition of poverty has nothing to do with money. Poverty is not the lack of funds. It's the surrender to circumstance. And that surrendering sits in the mind. It is a belief of helplessness, the absence of hope. As long, even if you haven't got a penny in your accounts or a naira in your accounts, but you have hope, you're willing to move the needle, you're willing to go ahead, you're not poor. It's the point at which we give up. Another financial myth is that it takes money to make money. I heard that a lot growing up in Nigeria. It's not true. It's indeed a myth. Take a look at the richest people on the planet, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, the Larry Ellisons. They all started with the same thing, and it wasn't money. It was an idea which was driven by passion almost to the point of obsession. That's why there's a general belief. There's a school of thoughts to which many allude. And poor people talk about money. Hey, I haven't got money to do this. If only I had money. If only somebody gave me money. If only I got more money from my job. If only I got more money from this. I'm looking for money anyhow. I'm looking for money. It's an indication of where you are financially on the financial spectrum. Rich people talk about possessions. My house, my car, my boat, my designer, my this, my that. The truly wealthy focus on ideas because they're not driven by money. They're driven by making a difference. They're driven by having an impact. And that is where true wealth lies. That is why God does not give wealth. It's for us to create. That's why Moses informed people of Israel. Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. He gives the ability, we do the creating. Very often when we pray for money, God gives us an idea. He gives us the seeds for wealth creation. What do we do with those ideas? Have they come to fruition? Are we walking them? Or we're hoping God will give us money? He doesn't. The truth is, there has never been a shortage of money. There never will be a shortage of money on this planet. What is in shortage is courage, character, and big enough ideas. Even at the height of financial crises, across history, no money leaves this planet. On the contrary, in modern economies, more money is pumped into the economy. Hence why we have stimulus checks or bounce back loans, or why interest rates are cut so that your money can go further. So what do we do with the ideas we have? I know people who took bounce back loans and went to enjoy themselves with it. And I know people who took bounce back loans and invested it. Even if your idea is small, start with it. It's a seed that has the potential to become a forest. I threw this next one in because I had a series of conversations with people in the last week about property. And somewhere in there, this kept recurring. If I buy this, would it provide peace of mind? Would I be able to relax? Would I be able to chill? Would it be okay? The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, money can never provide us with peace. Can I hold here for a moment? I keep getting a message that to start my video. Is my video not showing?
It is showing, ma.
Okay.
It just
Okay.
went off for a few minutes.
I see what you mean. Okay. Nothing inanimate can give us peace. What getting more money does is that it simply replaces the problems we believe we have now with a new set of challenges. I don't even want to call them problems. And where this thinking is dangerous, that money will give me some sort of peace of mind, is that it will only take you so far. It's like putting a cap on your own capability. It's like putting a cap on your own potential. That if I have enough money to pay my bills, then I'll be okay. I'll be free. I would have no more problems. It's a myth because the minute income rises at a certain level, your expenses rise exponentially to blunt the profits, unless you intentionally take actions to stop it. Even if you don't spend it on yourself, there are people who are ready to spend it for you. Not only that, said no one can serve two masters. You either hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Only one of the masters referred to in this text can give us peace. And we get to decide which one we want to put our trust in. It's for this very reason. And sometimes we think when we talk about the love of money, we think about people who will kill for money. It's not that far off. One of the reasons that we get scared to let go of money, either to invest, either to give, either to step out on a venture, is because we somehow think we're letting go of security. We somehow think the security lies in hanging on to those funds. The paradox, though, is that unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. We have to let go to pray. We have to let go to create wealth. We have to plant the kernel. We have to wait for it to die. We have to wait for it to germinate. We have to wait for it to bear fruit. And then we have to replant in order to create wealth. No amount of money will give us security. I know it's easy said than done, but when we come to the core of our habits, when we come to the core of our beliefs, are we finding any security in it? Are we finding any peace in money? There's only one Prince of Peace. And he doesn't exist in the bank. He doesn't exist in the bank. Or in our bank accounts. Another myth is that we can get rich from a salary. If only I can work enough shifts. If only I can get a better paying job. If only there were more than 24 hours in a day, I would work it. The truth of the matter is, we cannot create any type of sustainable or substantive wealth without passive income. Real wealth comes from the nature and volume of the passive cash flow we create. The richest people in the world do not work 24 hours. They do not work every God-given shift. In fact, an example we could point to was Elon Musk, in spite of his business empires, who get involved in politics. That appeared to backfire a bit, but that's a different story. Could afford to get involved in politics and do other things, and get involved in running a department of the government. King Solomon did not need to go to war. Granted, that created another problem, but we can discuss that another day. You have to be able to earn while you sleep or while you relax. Whatever strength you have now to get to a job, to do a job, to work hard, and we should work hard, you're not always going to have that strength. Number one, and number two, it's not going to create wealth. Even people who earn substantive salaries, the wealth comes from them investing that salary, not from earning the salary. One of the core principles of wealth creation lies in what God said at the creation of man. God told them, be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth, and subdue it. God blessed them. To bless is to permit ability to release what was already within. So God basically told man, go and become who you truly are. To be fruitful means to be productive, to bring forth the results of production. To increase in number simply means to multiply. How do I do this many times over? How do I create what has given one source of income many times over? You cannot do this working so many hours. You must have a system. Create income without you having to expend more of your limited time. Because the truth be said is we all have, apart from the 24 hours we have in a day, we all have limited time in this planet. So working more hours is not the answer. So now let's look at some financial truths that counters the myths. There's specific principles about wealth. It's not luck. And I'm not talking about dishonest wealth. I'm talking about honest wealth. We looked at a number of the laws earlier on about savings, about investments, about management, about managing your hustle. But one law that encompasses all the other laws, that is pinned, that underpins the other laws, is what God told Joshua as the new leader of Israel. And it was to keep this book of law always on your lips, meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to observe everything, be careful to do everything that's written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. This basically is telling us is obey these laws, and the fallout will be prosperity. The end result will be prosperity. You don't chase prosperity. You don't chase money. You focus on abiding with law. The focus is on law. The natural result will be prosperity and success. Another financial truth is money is attracted to purpose. There are very few people who actually got wealthy or actually got rich. And their objective at the starting point was, I want money so that I can flex. I want money so that I can become a baller. It's rare. Personally, I don't know of anyone. The mistake we often make, and why that mindset may have come about, is we often see people who are truly wealthy, who are genuinely wealthy in their downtime, in their leisure time. So we see them in maybe yachts, we see them in private jets, we see them doing certain things, and we think that is their life all the time. Enjoyment non-stop. So we pursue that. I want to be like that. I want to enjoy those things. So we pursue that. Instead of looking at purpose. Most people who have genuinely created wealth have sought to make a difference, have been driven by a passion. Funds are attracted to courage, integrity, and action. As I mentioned earlier, there's no security in any money. Money can disappear overnight. It can develop wings and fly off. The phrase "do not fear" appears in the Bible over 100 times. And if we don't let go of that kernel of wheat, it is going to abide. Like I said, I had people asking me assurance, am I sure this is going to work? Am I sure if I put money in this, is going to be okay? I can tell you that. Everybody has to step out in faith. And let me assure everybody of one thing. Along the line, you will for sure get things wrong. Because there's some things you will have to learn for yourself. There's some things you will have to understand for yourself. There's some truths that you would have to own. And it's going to cost you. It might cost you money, it might cost you in other ways. But rest assured, money is one of the most replaceable things on this planet. As we're sitting here having this lovely discussion, money is being spent. Each of us, the gas bill is going, the light bill is going, the depreciation on the car. Likewise, if you line up your investments very well, if you manage your finances very well, money is being earned as we sit here. In the very same vein, if you have investment properties, rent is building up. If you have investments in funds or in stocks, or the returns are building up. It's the very same thing here. But we have to act and we have to be courageous. God has told us we shouldn't fear. We cannot rise above the level of our thinking. If we see small, if we think we're small, we are. If we think we're great, we are. It was the author Stephen Seabold who said, humans are only driven to the level of their belief, that their belief would allow. If I can't seem to go beyond a certain level, and I always draw back, it's something in my belief system. It's something I believe deep down. And it might not even be deep down. That's where you see people making all sorts of excuses not to take the next step. What if it doesn't happen? What if it goes wrong? It might. We cannot manifest more than the capacity of our imagination or vision. Like I said, if you see yourself as small, you are. If you see yourself as great, you are. Hence why it's important for us to renew our minds daily. Wherever we are right now, Where we're likely to be in the future is not going to be a function of circumstance. It's not going to be education. It's not going to be economic conditions. It's not going to be race. It's not going to be gender. It's not going to be class. It's not going to be village people. It's going to be how you see, how you think, what you think your place in the world is. I have taught numerous classes on funds and investments, and in my experience, and it might be different elsewhere, only about 20% actually take the step to go forward. People hear, people get excited, and then it goes by the side. Everybody wants to grow their finances. Everybody wants to be financially viable. But what is it in our belief system that is holding us back? Money is meant to work for you, not you for money. We're really meant to work for purpose. And on a more fundamental level, money is something we should attract by doing the right thing consistently, by taking the right steps consistently. And it doesn't mean that growing wealth is linear. There will be setbacks along the way. It's part of life. There are things we have to learn. We don't know it all. But by consistently doing the right thing and by consistently taking the right steps, we would move things in the right direction. To paraphrase the American entrepreneur, P.T. Barnum, money is a terrible master, but an excellent servant. We need to put it to work. And it was Solomon who said, wear yourself out to get rich. Cast a glance at riches and they're gone. As we touched on earlier, you will have to sacrifice to reach the next level. Something has to give. It's a spiritual and physical law. Christ had to die for us to be saved. Something had to give. We have to give up to move up. We have to go and create wealth. We have the ability, it's been given to us. We have to go through that wilderness to get to the promised land. Because the point of the wilderness is not to punish, it's to refine, it's to grow us. So in conclusion, it all boils down to something you mentioned earlier. As a man thinks in his mind, so is he. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Ma. I have learned a lot. Not allowing money to be the dictator of where we're going.